Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be building the 1/35th scale Tiger II from Hobby Boss. Now this kit I bought quite a while back and it's taken me a little bit of time to finish, so that's why the video has been so long from the last one, and I've also actually lost the footage from assembling the running gear, so you're just going to have to deal with that in this video, but hopefully in the future that won't happen again, as I've been upgrading my camera and lighting setup, as you'll see later on in the video. Now this kit was really nice, everything fit together perfectly. There's photo edge included in the kit, which was really nice, as it allows you to add in some much smaller details such as the tool clasps and the engine covers with the mesh on top of them. This kit also comes with Zimmerite included in it. I decided to put it on the hull but not on the turret, just to add a little bit of detail to the tank and just have something a little bit different. Now the Tiger II was designed in 1943 by Nazi Germany, and it was produced from 1944 to 1945, and in that time they managed to produce 489 vehicles, which was pretty impressive considering Germany was in a steep decline and these tanks were not cheap to build. Everything about this kit was really nice, as I said. Everything fit together quite well. There was no gaps between the upper and lower hull or in the turret or anything like that. Here you can see me assembling the engine deck onto the upper hull. Everything, as I said, fit together really nice and there was no problems. This is the first tank that I've built that has included photo edge parts in the box, and they definitely make a huge difference to the overall look of the tank, as they allow you to have a lot more detail and not have that same thickness that you would have with the plastic. I use super glue to secure the photo edge parts just because your plastic cement isn't going to work. It is quite a pity when you get to the end of the model and you begin painting it, because you do have all these little pieces of gold that add a little bit of bling to the tank and really make it stand out when you're building it. The Zimmerite comes in a sheet with the box and everything is cut out for you. You just have to cut off, just like from the sprue, 2 little pieces and then glue the Zimmerite onto the part of the tank. Here I'm gluing in the driver's hatches and the radio man's hatches. And as I said, everything fits really nice, and you can model these in the open position if you'd like. There's no interior modelled, so I said I would keep them closed. But I am going to have the turret, actually some of the hatches open there, because as you can see in a little while, this is going to be part of a diorama. Here I'm marking out a few places to cut down the Zimmerite so that I can add in the tow cable mounts and different bits like that. You don't have to do this, but I decided I would, just because on the real tanks the Zimmerite is a paste that is applied after all the tool clasps and etc. are done. So I decided I would take the thickness out of them and not have these sitting on top of the Zimmerite coating. The look of the back of the tank looks really well with all the photo edge parts, and as you can see I left some tool clasps in there without the tools in them, because this gives you the option to do it now that I have the photo edge. Here I'm actually separating out the track guards, just because I decided I want to have some of the sections missing, just to give a bit more detail and make it look as if the tank had actually been in use for a little while before this model was built. Now here I'm actually marking out where I want to cut off the Zimmerite, because I want to make it look as if the Zimmerite was applied while in the factory when the track guards would have been on, and so thus there wouldn't be any Zimmerite underneath them. Here you can see me marking the area where the Zimmerite wouldn't be underneath the mud guards, and what I did first was draw a line in pencil, and then I used my X-Acto knife to cut the Zimmerite and remove it from the area. Then I shaved down the thickness of the track guards so it would allow me to bend them much easier and add some bullet holes and make it look as if they had been dented by various rocks or hitting different things as the tank was moving. Here I add the bullet holes just using a hot knife, and here I'm actually pushing down the photo edge parts to make it look as if the crew have stood on top of these guards and managed to bend them. Here's some more photo edge parts on the clasps that are on the front track guards. These are really small, but they definitely add a huge amount of detail to the final model. Here I'm adding in the wire going from the front light into where it actually comes out of the hull. I just used a piece of lead wire to do this, and it definitely adds a whole lot to the model, because there is no wire here before when there really should be in real life. I then moved on to doing the commander's cupola and the loader's hatch, and then I would assemble these into the turret of the tank. The Commander's cupola is really well detailed. As you can see, all the periscopes are actually in it, and they use clear plastic parts for these, so if you do manage to mask them, you can have the clear plastic showing through at the end of your product. I am going to have these open, as I will have a Commander sitting inside this one, and the loader's hatch will be left open because in the diorama the crew will be loading the tank, as you'll see in a little while. As you can see, the inside of the loader's hatch is also really well modelled, so this is going to definitely help because I do want to have this hatch open so it will be visible, and all the interior parts are modelled on the hatch. Also, the gun has a really well detailed breech, so everything you see inside the turret looks pretty nice, although most of it is not visible from the outside, even with the open hatches. Here is the figures I'm going to use for the diorama. They are loading the tank, and they also come with some of the boxes of ammunition. Unfortunately, they only include 2 rounds of the 88mm ammunition for the Tiger, so I'm just going to have to work with this, whereas they do include a lot of rounds of the 75mm stuff, which isn't relevant to this model at all. Here you can see me assembling the upper turret, and you can also see the gun and breech assembly all done and sitting on top of the tank. As I said, it is really nicely modelled, and there's photo edge parts included in the gun breech as well, so even though 95% of people are never going to see it, there are photo edge parts inside the turret. Here I'm gluing the loader's hatch in the open position. As you'll see later on, this will have reference to the diorama. And here I'm sliding the upper turret, I suppose, onto the base of the turret, and you simply just slide it down over the barrel, and then you slide the gun mantlet on from the front of the barrel. The muzzle brake is also really nicely modelled, and I always think these are kind of one of the nicer bits to have clean modelling on, just because they are some of the focus points that are going to draw your eye when you're looking at the finished model. Here there's a lot of different finicky parts where the tracks will be mounted on, well, spare track will be mounted, but these were quite easy to do. I used super glue to glue these just because I wanted something that was a little bit stronger than the plastic cement. Here you can see me assembling the military figures that are going to be standing around it. In total there will be the Commander sitting in the turret, which I took from my Tiger 1 kit, and then there will be 3 other figures actually taking the ammunition out of crates and loading them into the tank. Here I'm assembling some jerry cans that I'm going to use to put on the side of the tank as storage, just to give it a little bit more detail. These jerry cans are actually from an Allied kit that I have lying around, but I'm just going to use them for this model because most jerry cans at this time were pretty much the same, and so long as I don't have the US logo showing on the outside, it should all check out. Here I'm assembling some oil barrels that I'm also going to have sitting beside the diorama. These barrels are really simple, and they came from the same accessory kit that I've purchased before from Tamiya. Here I'm adding the lead wire that actually the storage bags are going to be hanging off of. Here I just used a little bit of super glue to glue them to the wire and to the side of the hull, and this gave a really nice effect, and it, really broke up the design from the standard flat turret with nothing on it. Here I'm using an MG42 as well from the kit that should be mounted on the Commander's cupola, but from a lot of the reference photos that I've seen, they don't tend to have them mounted. Then I moved on to the front, and I actually cut some holes in the Zimmerite to make it look as if they'd been hit by shells and the Zimmerite had flaked off. I used my rotary tool just to create a little shell dent, and then also cleared away the excess plastic from around the outside to make it look clean. The upper and lower hull aren't actually glued together at this stage. I just have them left apart so that I can easily paint and then assemble the running gear before having to glue the whole model together. It'll give me a lot more access later on to paint. And here's the final result. I hope you guys really like and you stick around for the next video of me painting this model. It's definitely one of the most detailed models I've worked on so far, and everything in it I think came out really, really nicely. Anyway guys, thanks for watching and we'll see you in the next episode.